We'll now look at section 2.6 and discuss circles. Let's begin with a definition. The standard form of a circle. The standard form of the equation for a circle of radius r and center hk is given by the formula in parentheses x minus h squared plus the quantity y minus k squared is equal to r squared. As you look at this formula, remember that the center is the h and the k, and the radius is the r. Let's look at an example. Find the standard form of the equation for the circle with radius 3 and center -2, 7. So I know from looking at this that my radius is 3, and I know that my h value is -2, and my k value is 7. So I'm going to begin by writing down the formula for my circle. X minus h, that quantity squared, plus y minus k, that quantity squared, is equal to r squared. Now the next thing I will do is I will enter in the values that I have. So I know that the r value is 3. So in place of the r, I'm going to put a 3. I know that the h value is -2. So in place of the h, I'm going to put a -2. And I know that the k value is 7. So in place of the k value, I'm going to put a 7. And we'll do just a little bit of simplifying. For example, in this x minus a -2, we can write that x plus 2 squared. The y minus 7 squared I'll leave alone. And we know that 3 times 3 is equal to 9. And so we now have the standard form of a circle with radius 3 and center -2, 7. Our next example asks us to find the standard form of an equation for a circle that has diameter whose endpoints are 4, -1, and 2, 5. So if you think about what we have here, if they're giving me the diameter, let's do a quick graph. So I have as endpoints -4, -1, which would sit right here, and then I have the point 2, 5. And we have a circle that would look something like this. Remember that the diameter is going to run right through the center of the circle. So if these are the endpoints on the diameter, then the center of this circle is going to lie somewhere in here on that diameter. So how do we find the center of the circle? The center of the circle would be the midpoint along that line. So I'm going to begin there. And I'm going to begin with my midpoint formula. And remember that that formula says that we're going to take the 2x values and add them together and divide by 2. And then we'll take the 2y values and add them together and divide by 2. So my x's in my point are -4 and +2. So we're going to add those two together and divide by 2. The 2y values, -1 and +5. So we'll add those together and divide by 2. -4 plus 2 is -2. over 2. Negative 1 plus 5 is 4 over 2. And so my center is going to be the point negative 1, positive 2. I also need the radius in order to determine the equation for the circle. So let's work on that next. So remember that the radius, by definition, is the distance from the center to a point on the outside of the circle. So how could we find that radius? We could use the distance formula. And remember that formula says that we'll take the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And this is going to find for us the r value, or the radius of that circle. Now we want to go from the center to either point on the outside. So it doesn't really matter which one I use. I'm going to use the 2, 5 simply because the numbers are positive and I would expect it to be a little bit easier. And so let's plug in. So x2 would be 2, x1 would be negative 1, y2 would be 5, and y1 would be 2. So 2 minus negative 1 would be 3. 5 minus 2 would also be 3. So we're looking at the square root of 9 plus 9, which is the square root of 18. So the radius is the square root of 18. Once that's done, then we're ready to actually come up with the equation for our circle. So we'll use our formula for the circle, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to the radius squared. We'll plug in for the h, negative 1. For the k, we'll plug in 2. And for the r, we'll plug in the square root of 18. And so simplifying, we have x plus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared. And when we take the square root of 18 and square it, we get just 18. And so here is the equation of our circle, whose diameter has the given endpoints. And let's try one more example on this one. It says find the standard form of the equation of the circle graphed below. So what do we know about this circle? We can identify the center of this circle as being, let's see, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, and down 2. So negative 3, negative 2 would be our center. And what is our radius? Our radius would be the distance from the center to a point on the outside. And using a point that is either directly across or directly up or down would be easiest. So let's count this. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have a radius of 5. And so we'll take that information and we'll plug that into our circle formula. So x minus h squared would be x minus a negative 3 squared. Y minus k would be y minus a negative 2 squared. We'll plug a 5 in for the radius and square that. And so simplifying, we have x plus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to 25.